Sometimes you just want to make something nice for the house. Maybe it's a housewarming gift for someone else. Maybe you were in the mood for a relaxing afternoon project. Or perhaps you're trying to justify why you need a whole room just for a workshop in a 2-bedroom apartment. So today we'll be making a few projects for the home. Each project can be done on a free afternoon, nothing too big. And as always, everything is open source so you can make your own. I begin most of my projects by painting plywood with a mixture of water-based colors. I use brown, black, orange and red, and I vary the ratios to fit the color I am going for. Here I mixed orange with a bit of black, which turned into a reddish brown. Once the color is well mixed, I use a sponge to paint the plywood. Sometimes the wood looks a bit uneven at first, but after enough brushing, the color ends up pretty nice. Once I'm done painting, the wood is usually slightly damp, so I let it dry. I try to make use of this step to flatten my plywood completely by either securing it onto my honeycomb bed or by laying the wood on a flat surface and putting some weight on it. By the time the wood dries, the plywood becomes flatter than it was originally. The first project today is a set of snack bowls. I made two versions, a small one made of 3mm plywood and a larger one made of 6mm plywood. Both versions look pretty similar. They are made of two rings with slots in them connected with many short legs. I started by cutting the smaller version on my xTool diode laser. I began installing some of the legs by connecting them to the upper ring. When connecting the parts, you can either use glue or set the kerf offset so that the fit is tight. For gentle parts, I try to keep the connections a bit loose and add glue. This way, nothing breaks during assembly. Then, I glue the bottom ring and attach the remaining legs. Assembly of the large ball was pretty similar, but since the plywood was thicker and the joints were bulkier, its assembly was much easier than the smaller ball. I made two small snack balls and one larger ball to make for a complete set. I really liked them and our guests really responded well to them. I didn't aim for them to get attention, but they did. The next project for today is a practical one, a coat hanger. I had a pine wood board that I wanted to use as a coat hanger, but I needed hooks. I decided to make some using my laser cutter, so I designed hooks to fit around the board's dimensions using CAD software and cut the parts with my laser cutter. The board I had laying around was 20mm thick and 94mm wide. If you want to use this design but you already have a different board, you can stretch the hooks in Lightburn. Just make sure that the inner cut matches the board you are using. I cut the hooks out of 6mm plywood, but I wanted them to be sturdier, so I glued pairs of hooks into thicker 12mm hooks. While waiting for the glue to dry, I marked holes in the board so I could hang it onto the wall later. I used a manual drill to make the holes. It's not better than my electric drill, but I was doing this late at night and I didn't want to make too much noise. I added chamfers to the holes so that the screws don't stick out and made sure that they are flush. Before adding the hooks, I grabbed the board and marked where the screw anchor should be. I use a pen refill to mark through narrow holes. Once the glue dried, I slid the hooks onto the board and spaced them evenly. The hooks turned out to be a tight fit, so I didn't use glue to secure them. I added a couple of circular spacers to help anchor the board to the wall. And when the hanger was all set, I drilled two holes and mounted it onto the wall. This is what it looks like. It's simple but practical. The hooks turned out surprisingly sturdy, and overall, I like the way this mini project turned out. When making the coat hanger, I accumulated a bunch of these small pieces, and it got me thinking, what can I make with them? So I thought I'd make some sort of a catch-all, something to put my car keys on. I quickly designed something which I thought would look nice and put it together. Honestly, it turned out pretty ugly for what it was supposed to be. It looks like some sort of a beach chair, and keeping this stuffed dog is the best use I could find for it. Anyway, this prototype helped me understand what I needed for the catch-all. I liked the skeleton look that the prototype had, but it had to be shaped like a shallow bowl of some sort. So I designed new files, cut them, and started putting it together. There are two holders at the bottom to which horizontal pieces are connected. To keep the holders aligned the way I wanted, I laid the first horizontal piece without adding glue. Then I applied glue to all the joints. Afterwards, I installed the horizontal pieces one by one. These parts are ordered, so if you're making one of these, make sure to keep them sorted. To finish, I glued the first horizontal piece and let the glue dry. This version is a lot better than the previous one. I like it, but I think that it's still a bit raw. Feel free to let me know what you think about it. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see more of what I do, you're welcome to visit my channel. See you soon!